This video is sponsored by Aquashine Exteriors, professional jet washing and cleaning services across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, including Dorset, Hampshire and Wiltshire. Are you feeling it's time to get that driveway nice and shiny for when you come home? Or are you wanting to get that guttering tidied up and spotless again? They deliver this, plus much, much more. Please head into the description below where you'll find their details for their website, including the socials, Facebook and Instagram. You also need to find their before and after portfolio. You can also call them on 07503 998 088 for a free quotation. Don't wait till next week. Don't think you'll do it another day. Pick up the phone, give them a call, check them out. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cherries Red Army. It's another massive match preview in the Premier League. Bournemouth taking on Nottingham Forest. You feeling nervous? You excited? We want you to help us in this match preview. The live interactive chat is open. Come and say hello. Come and help us in the next 40 minutes because I've got Matt with me. It's going to be another big game. We've got lots to talk about. An interesting fixture for Bournemouth.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, Kirk. Yeah, pleasure to be here as always. Another massive game for us this Saturday in the Premier League. They get bigger by the week, don't they, at the moment? So let's see where we're at come Saturday. But we've got to go into it with the most positive attitude that we possibly can do, haven't we, really?
Subscribe to Cherries Red Army. Also hit the like button. Let's put 50 minimum likes on this video. So please do help us. And of course, get those comments at the end. If you weren't able to join us live and you're watching this video back between now and kickoff, thank you very much. And let's see who is currently joining us. We've got Aaron Kaye in the chat this evening. Abby is joining us whilst making dinner. Let us know what you're cooking, Abby. What are you having for dinner? Mark Singleton, evening Cherries fans. This is a game we've got to win, especially because it's Forest. They're going to be well up for it, Mark. You just know it. Donald says we need goals, goals. David Codron from Australia. Evening all. Morgan, how are you? Very good photos, by the way, Morgan, from the AFCB Superstore photo shoot. Keep up the good work. Cameron, how are you doing? Neil Whedon, saw you at Brentford. Lovely to chat with you before the game. Shame the game wasn't as perfect as it could have been, but thanks for joining us, Neil. I hope you're doing well. And we've also got Chris Hubble. Now, before we get on with the preview, Matt, there's some business. Well, I say some business to talk about. We're not doing a lot of it, but January transfer window. Utara is apparently on his way. We're still waiting to find out if he's completed his medical work permit. Maybe get through the door before Saturday. We definitely need players. We're in for Semenyo as well. 2 bids rejected. We've apparently moved on to other targets. What's your thoughts around the January transfer window so far? 3 out, none currently in, and 2 more players that we've lost to injury last weekend.
So far, it's been an unmitigated disaster, I'd have to say. Hopefully we're sat here in a couple of weeks' time and that the picture will have changed dramatically because at this moment in time, we've cleared the decks of players going out on loan or players being released. And we've now got players injured and the injury list is starting to mount, as it will do in January. We know how it goes. But so far, we haven't managed to bring anybody in officially. And, over halfway through the month, I was hoping that we would get some business done early. And Bill Foley's obviously spoken about how we're not going to be relegated and how we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And we've got money set aside and we've got our targets and things will fall into place. Nothing has it, so far? So it does make you wonder. And just the whole nature of how they seem to be approaching it. We seem to be linked with a player. And then it doesn't quite come off. And then they sort of back away and there's all this speculation going on. It all seems a little bit disjointed, as it does on the field at the moment and throughout in terms of the decision making. So something drastic has got to happen really in the next couple of weeks for us to be able to even have a chance really of survival, I feel.
Well, we normally leave it quite late. Morgan's just said that Chris Temple has just tweeted some good news on Twitter. Might be to do with Utara. So I'll pick that up after this live stream. And Abby said she's having chorizo tortillas. Very, very nice. Absolutely
Lovely.
Nice. Chorizo tortillas for you, Matt?
I had bacon, egg, beans and toast and just finished it off with a protein shake. So plenty of protein, but I can't match Abby for that. It sounds very tasty.
Mine was pasta. So we're all fueled, ready for this preview, and we've got lots to talk about. We're going to talk about both teams. We've got an opposition view clip. We've also got those predicted lineups and your score predictions at the end. So make sure you stay with us. Let's get on with the preview then. Last season, roughly, Do you remember this?
Looking wet and windy. The winds across the country likely to reach 40 or 50 miles an hour, even inland.
No, not that. This.
Cheeky one, square! And
Don't worry, Forest fans. I think we've got a fixture on this Saturday. Don't panic. Your journey won't be wasted. I'm sure of that. Looking at the league table before we get stuck into both teams, then Bournemouth still not in that relegation zone, even after a poor form guide, still in 17th. And Nottingham Forest are starting to creep up the Premier League. They're currently in 13th. And let's start in a positive place then, shall we, Matt? And that was back in September, when it was a game of two halves. Nottingham Forest took the first half with a 2-0 lead and AFC Bournemouth threw the kitchen sink. And it was one of those freak results that happens in football sometimes. What a great day out. I think you were there. Bournemouth 3, Nottingham Forest 2. Remember it?
God, blimey, do I. I was there, all right. I mean, that was the day, really, where I rekindled. I've said this before. My passion was rekindled. I think I went on the free for all on the back of the net channel after. The passion just flowed out of me. Really, it was just it seemed like such a watershed moment from what we'd been served up. Although we'd been promoted under Scott Parker, there was us there. He had no affinity with the club, with the fan base, and it just felt like that our mantra and our motto all came into play that day again. You know, together anything is possible, and it just felt like for that day. Particularly the second half, the way that we turned the match around, we were unified, we were together. When the chips are down, historically, that's when we've shown our mettle, and we've shown what this football club is all about. And I felt on and off the pitch that day, the fans in the stands, the team on the pitch, even the manager, Gary O'Neill, the coaching staff with Tommy and Sean, they all came together that day, and there was nothing left out on that field. And we looked we looked a unit. We were snapping into challenges. We were organised. We showed cohesion. We showed endeavour. All of these things that you want to see from your football team. Second half, particularly, we saw it, and we've got to do that again. I hoped that would be the case at Brentford last Saturday, and again, I think I went public with that and said this feels like a Forest away sort of a situation, but unfortunately, that wasn't to be. But at some point, we've got to find that within us again, something to lift us all. Whether it be a challenge, a goal out of nowhere, from 30 yards, whatever it is, the whole club, the whole place, really, the whole stadium, particularly at home, needs lifting, doesn't it? By something, a spark. We got it that day, so let's hope we can replicate it for the home fixture.
Talking of a spark, John Sparks in the chat, and he said best away day ever. We might have still been in that little club bounce because a few weeks after Scott Parker left, and that might have helped. Nottingham Forest, though, let's put the focus onto them in this preview. And they've gone through their patchy spell, and they took on a Leicester City side months and months ago where they got beat heavily, and maybe Cooper was on his way out, but Nottingham Forest decided to stick by him. They spent a lot of money. They've had to mould a big team, but they have started to turn their form around, Matt, and they did get a 2-0 win against Leicester last weekend. They've got 3 wins in 5. They're currently 19th in the league. They've got 20 points at the halfway stage of this season. They're actually halfway to safety with the 20 points.
Yeah, when we played them that day in September, it's obviously a fantastic time to play them because they just signed a whole new squad, basically. And it was always going to take time for Steve Cooper to get that to gel together and come together as a team. No question, they signed some good individuals and they signed some talent, but to actually pull that together as a team in such a short space of time was always going to be a big ask. And it was always going to take time for them to mould into a team and for them to click into gear. Eventually do so and find some form and things would turn for them. And that certainly seems to be the case at the moment. It's obviously their home ground. They make it a bit of a cauldron. The atmosphere is crackling. The fans get right behind them. Their away form, their home form's obviously been better than their away form. Their away form hasn't been fantastic at all. So it's going to be a different fixture to the one that we faced in September, a much different fixture, different situation. We're coming up against a different team now. So we can't go into it with any complacency whatsoever, which I'm sure we won't. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, really.
Spent big money. Brennan Johnson starting to find the back of the net. I think he's a joint top scorer for them. Morgan Gibbs-White, as we know from last season, is a very talented lad, and they're still signing players. Danilo will probably not make this game. It'll probably come too early, but another signing for them. And they're going to be well up for this, Matt. As I've said weeks and weeks and weeks ago, they've got lots of reasons to turn up on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, our record against Forest, generally speaking, over the years has been pretty good. Particularly at home. I can only remember us losing once to them at home, and that was in the promotion season from the Championship back in 14-15. I think we got beat 2-1. They turned the game around. I remember him scoring a late goal. Our post, lost his man, and I think it was headed in the net, and they won the game out of somewhere. But generally speaking, we've normally come out on top against them at home over the years when we have played them. Obviously, we haven't played them masses of times in our history. And we've got to take, at the end of the day, we've got to take the game to. We said this against Crystal Palace that Gary O'Neill has to have an Everton home attitude where, it's do or die, not just for the team on the pitch and the points to stay out of the relegation zone, but for Gary O'Neill himself. And he's back in that situation again. He's fighting for his job like he was that day against Everton. He had to go for it. He had to open the game up and he had to go for it against the poor Everton side, admittedly. But we have to do the same on Saturday. We thought we'd do it against Crystal Palace. We thought we'd be expansive. We thought we'd get in their faces. We'd open the game up. We'd go for them. We'd get the crowd on our side from the off. And we'd show real attacking intent. We didn't do it. So, it has to happen on Saturday for me. There's no other way to approach this game than in a bit of a sort of not a gung-ho manner, but we really have to attack the game. The onus is on us. We're at home. We need the points. We're now below Nottingham Forest. We are desperate for the points. So we really have to go for this and show something, show some excitement, show some cohesion, get things clicking in the final third somehow. We just have to go for it.
We said that Nottingham Forest are probably going to be up for this. We know that they will be, but let's get an opposition view now from Des Oldham, Nottingham Forest fan. He does podcasts as well for Nottingham Forest, and let's see how he's feeling. Probably a confident Forest fan, and this is our opposition view. It's 4 minutes of a Forest perspective.
Des, Forest fan, really looking forward to a trip to the South Coast on Saturday. Hopefully, the wind is not too bad. We wouldn't want Bournemouth running scared like they were last season when they thought the Reds were going to pip them to promotion. Thankfully, we're both in the Premier League. Bournemouth did us a favour when they beat us in the actual fixture. It meant we could go up for a Wembley final, gave us a massive day. And to be honest, Forest haven't looked back since. Whilst the Premier League's been tough, it really has. Early season form was a worry. The 22 players signed weren't gelling. That's taken time. We were getting a few good idings, but before the World Cup, a massive upturn in form. It looked like Cooper's job was on the line when we played Leicester away. A big East Midlands derby, got beat 4-0, but something happened that night and everything changed. A change of formation, a change of personnel, particularly in the back line, meant Forest started to grind out results. And as the World Cup approached, they were really getting results. A home wins against Liverpool, Crystal Palace. We thought the World Cup might have come at a bad time. Since, though, we've just carried on in the same vein. A defeat when we came back against Man United, probably to be expected. But since then, the performances are improving week on week. It seems like Cooper's settled on a starting 11, and that's so important. The team's picking itself, although one or two in recent weeks have picked up injuries, so there's a bit of room for manoeuvre. And of course, Henderson got injured against Leicester. Last time out, we beat our local rivals. Almost feels like a full circle since that 4-0. Feels like that was a pivotal moment earlier in the season. But now we're starting to look forward. A great performance by Morgan Gibbs-White, Brennan Johnson. If Forest are going to do well in the Premier League this season, if they're going to stay up, these guys are the ones that are going to do the business. And they are doing the business. So going into a game against Bournemouth, whose slump coincides with Forest upturning fortunes, it looks like it's winnable. That said, the bare minimum I'd like to see is a draw. Points on the board now. Forest have got 20 from 19. If they get 40 from 38, they'll probably stay up. So any points are important, but I can see Forest just nicking this one. The attacking players, Scarpa, the new Brazilian wonder kid, he's got a fantastic eye for a pass. In working with Gibbs White, Johnson on the break. Do you know, I think Forest will just nick this one, but wouldn't, like I say, be too disappointed with a draw. When it comes to the starting lineup, I'd expect Forest to go with Hennessy in goal. Decent deputy for Henderson. Aurora and Loddy have been brilliant in recent weeks. Aurora, one of the finds of the season. A free transfer, we didn't expect much, but brilliant. Worrell and McKenna at the back, two solid units. Worrell had built up a relationship with Bolly, but he got injured, so McKenna's playing at the moment. The midfield picks itself. Foyer, Mangala and Yates. Yates, again, might be a doubt, but I'd expect him to play. He's a battle-hardened customer, that guy. And then Gibbs, White, Scarpa and Johnson. That is what I'd expect on Saturday, but we have signed Danilo. I think this game might have come just a little bit too soon, but that kind of intent with the signing, the recent form, you know, it's exciting to be a Forest fan again. And where Bournemouth might be failing, Forest are going in the other direction. So come on, Forest. Wind aside, any of the thrown away games, thrown away opportunities we've had against Bournemouth recently, this is the time to put all those right. The 1-0 that stopped us going up automatically. The turnaround at the City Ground earlier in the season. Thing of the past. Come on, you Reds.
Thanks to Des Oldham there, Nottingham Forest fan, for giving us his perspective. It looks like we might need to burst a little bubble, Matt. Now, we spoke about a predicted lineup. Let's quickly have a look at that. And that's the team that you're seeing on the screen. It's got no Steve Cook, no Sam Surridge, nowhere near this squad at the moment, or they're near this lineup for fact. When you look at that team, any concerns?
Yeah, yeah. Johnson's a worry. Gibbs White's a worry. What Gibbs White likes to do, of course, is he likes to come a little bit deep into the 10 role and pull the strings. So we'll have to get hold of him on Saturday. And I would expect Jeff realistically to monitor Gibbs White and hopefully keep him quiet. Even maybe Ben Pearson if he comes into the fold in Lewis Cook's absence. With working in tandem with Scarpa as well, just beyond him, he looks a real talent. So that's an area where we're going to have to really be on our mettle, really sharpen up and make sure that we cut out that supply, because Johnson has got pace and he's starting to put the ball in the back of the net. He's starting to grow in confidence, which he didn't look like he had necessarily at the start of the season, and that goes with a team that was struggling to suddenly transform into winning football matches. Confidence grows. The area where I feel we can really get at them, Kirk, is in the centre of their defence. Worrell and McKenna. The jury is firmly out as to whether they're Premier League centre halves. And I think if Kiefer Moore can get about them and rough them up and start to dominate proceedings in that area, we can then look to bring our players that will feed off of Moore into play. Hopefully Dembele will be one of them. Maybe Jadon Anthony, / Ryan Christie is the other. And then it'll be the onus will very much be on them to show the quality. Look, we're missing some quality players. We're missing real quality already that we need to sign, let alone the players we've got out. And Dom Solanke is a huge miss for us. And it's all very easy for me, Kirk, to sit here and say, let's make something happen. Let's go for it. Let's go gung-ho. Let's go all out attack. But when you're lacking quality and you're missing your best striker, that's obviously very difficult to do that. But that's up to Gary O'Neill to set us up in a way that we can attack this. Because, like I say, Worrell and McKenna for me, you can get at them. Kiefer Moore really needs to make his presence felt at the top end of the pitch and bring these players that we play off him into play. And we'll have to start, trying to dominate the midfield a bit better. We'll expect Phil Billing to really put in a shift and contribute, not just off the ball with his running, which has got better, his effort, but he needs to start pulling a few strings when he's in possession as well, making things happen on Saturday. Stepping up.
Let's move on to the Cherries then and start to focus on how Bournemouth can get a result on Saturday. Well, last Saturday, it was an evening kickoff on Sky Sports, was another loss for Bournemouth. It was a 2-0 loss at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Brentford 2, Bournemouth 0. We were both there, Matt. It was a better performance from an energy point of view. The penalty split the game through Tony. Obviously, it was engineered a little bit. call it what you want, but he obviously played Senesi into a penalty there and the referee gave it. And then the second half they counter and took their chances. And what we're not doing right now, Matt, is taking chances. We're limiting ourselves to a high conversion rate to try and score a goal. That's now 4 losses in a row in the Premier League since the return of football, and it's 4 games without a goal. Brentford 2, Bournemouth 0.
There lies the difference between the two teams. There wasn't very much between us, I didn't think, apart from the quality in both boxes. And that's been the story in a lot of matches for us this season. Unfortunately, we're lacking the quality that is required in both boxes at the moment. When you actually look at the 11 that took to the field against Brentford, it is I hate to say it, but it looks a nailed-on Championship team with the likes of Ryan Christie, Jadon Anthony, Kiefer Moore, really, Jack Stacey. You could list them and question marks over some of the others as to whether they're Premier League players. Listen, I'm not talking our team that I want them to be Premier League players. I want them to progress and to step up and to keep improving as footballers. But the cold, hard facts are that we currently have a Championship squad, all because last January we were hell-bent on promotion from the Championship, naturally. So we went out and we bought a load of Championship players to make sure that we got out of the league. I wasn't comfortable with it last winter because it smacks of short-termism. I get why it happened now because Demons obviously wanted to get us up to sell the club. But this is the situation we find ourselves in now, Kirk. We are sadly lacking in Premier League quality players and arguably a Premier League quality manager as well, who needs help. He needs an experienced assistant alongside him. Who works underneath him that's experienced at this level? I don't know. What players we can attract that are Premier League quality and want to come to us? I don't know. But that's the situation we're in, and it's up to the board and the owner, along with the manager, to get us out of it. That's what they're paid the big bucks for. That's what he's invested heavily for. So the onus is very much on them and on Bill Foley now.
So why haven't we got an assistant manager for Gary O'Neill? Because even the best coaches in the world have assistant managers. And with Gary O'Neill being very limited with experience, and this is his first head coach stroke manager job, whatever you want to call it, why has he not got an assistant manager? Why is his right-hand people guys that have come up from the academy? I mean, is it a fact that it's quite a hard task to get an assistant manager in for him? Because who would want to potentially be under him if they've got way more experience than him?
When you look at it from the outside, Kirk, and I'm going to speak completely frankly and honestly here, you could say that it's ineptitude from the likes of Neil Blake and Richard Hughes. It's very, very easy to levy that accusation at them because some of what they did, some of what they have done historically has been quite good. But when you look at it, it's almost, is it laziness? Is it ineptitude? I don't know what it is, because there doesn't seem to have been a lot of thought go into this. This has happened on 3 occasions now. Eddie Howe leaves us, we appoint the assistant. Jason Tindall then gets the sack, we appoint the coach. Scott Parker then comes in with who we thought was the long-term plan, and that was the strategic approach and the structured approach where he's bringing in all his team. He goes out of the building. He's not the right fit, and then we appoint the coach. And in the meantime, you've got names linked with us at the other end of the scale, like Bielsa, like Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, whoever it might be. And we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. So it's very difficult for us, isn't it, to sit here and sit in our ivory towers behind the computer screen and be critical and analyse it because we don't know what's gone on, what the cold hard facts are. But as an outsider looking in, and as any outsider looking in, it looks like ineptitude from the board in terms of the directors, Richard Hughes and Neil Blake. You can't really levy that at Bill Foley or even Max Demon. What Max Demon did for the football club is great, but he's entrusted Neil Blake and Richard Hughes to run the football side of things. And at this moment in time, we're with a manager who's got no experience behind him, and he's literally got no experience behind him in his coaching staff. Bill Foley's saying that there's a budget that's endless to go out and spend on players. But if he's not producing the goods and he ends up getting sacked and we bring another manager in, he's going to turn around and say, well, these aren't my players. What do you buy him for? He's not for me at all. You spent 15 million on him. So really, there's no joined up approach at all at the moment, both on the field or off of it. And this is what I'm saying. The onus now is very much on Bill Foley to get to grips with it, because he's the owner. He's come in and he's promised a lot. He's promised the world. He really has. And so far, not delivered anything. And I know it's early days. He's only been in the role. He's only owned the club for a month. But so far, I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anything at all in terms of help and support for O'Neill, help it within the playing squad, anything moving forward. So, I'll go back to what I said at the start of the something drastic's got to happen in the next 2 weeks. Otherwise, we're very much championship bound, and he's got to build from there.
Abby said that Dom and Tab being out just killed us. Our attacking outlets, huge losses, massive. Clearly lost Dom very late last week before the game. But we did let Jamal Lowe and Emi Marcondes go out. Mainly Jamal Lowe left us short on the bench in that area. I was expecting a signing to be announced on Monday morning on the basis that we let Jamal Lowe go on Wednesday. And still, over a week later, we're still waiting for that confirmation of Utara. And that's it. Was you shocked to see Low leave, knowing that there's no plan at the moment to recruit heavily with Dom now injured as well?
I wasn't shocked to see him leave at the time, Kurt, because I assumed that there'd be a plan in place that we were going to very, very quickly replace him. But if we get to Saturday and we still haven't signed anyone officially, or Otara's not ready to play, or whatever it is, and we're without anybody to replace the players that we've let go and the players that we've got injured, then again, you can only call it ineptitude from the board and from the people running the football side of the football club, because this is a huge game, massive game, probably could be pivotal, one of our biggest this season against a firm relegation rival, and yet we are going into it threadbare. We're literally going into it with youth players on the bench that possibly couldn't even step into League One or League Two teams at the moment, and for me, that is inexcusable. We're 3 weeks into a transfer window now. You'd like to think that extensive work would have been done behind the scenes to make sure that there was a contingency plan in place for these players that have gone out, players that are injured, and that we would have a squad capable of competing on Saturday. And at this moment in time, it doesn't look like we have, which is why we've got nothing to lose. We have to go for it, like I said earlier, but it's not looking great at the moment. It is not looking great from the people running the football side of things.
And I would add as well that I know there's a lot of talk that goes on social media. I know there's a lot of communication between fans and debates are good, but there's a lot of conflict at the moment. And I would add that I think that 99% of fans' hearts are in the right place when they're trying to say something, because they want the club to do well and we want the club to stay up. And that's all we ask for. And Matt, you know my stance. I don't need to keep repeating it. I'm quite shocked that Gary O'Neill got this gig, and I'm quite shocked that he's still in this gig going into this huge game on Saturday. I know that you're of a slightly different opinion. We've been to football matches together. We've had good conversations. Knowing that you're in a slightly different boat, what is Saturday? What does anything change on Saturday? Is this last chance saloon for Gary O'Neill? And if it is last chance saloon and we lose this football match, is it too late?
Well, yeah, my stance is very much that was Bielsa ever come? We have to be realistic as well as a football club, and I don't mind coming on this show, Kirk, and speaking my mind and speaking from the heart as well. And what I was hearing on Saturday at Brentford was nothing short of disgraceful from some, and I'll emphasise the word some, a minority of our fan base. The negative chanting that was going on, individual booing of players, getting on players' back. People like Lloyd Kelly, who's a young footballer trying to compete at Premier League level. Yes, the jury's out as to whether he's a Premier League centre-half, left-back or whatever we want to call him. But don't boo the fella. His confidence is on the floor as it is. How is that going to help? How is it going to help Gary O'Neill and the squad when you're coming out with sarcastic chants, or you're saying you're getting sacked in the morning, you're footballish shit and all this, all these toxic, poisonous chants that were coming out of so-called supporters' mouths? We're AFC Bournemouth, we're in the Premier League. We're in the halcyon days of our football history, competing at Premier League level. Yet you've got so-called supporters that at the first sign of a bit of trouble, at the first sign of things not going our way, all they want to do is turn on the team and the manager and everything else. They're not the ones that you should be turning on at the moment, because there was no question on Saturday, Kirk, that the 100% effort and commitment was being given on that football pitch. And I'm sure that's the same with the management team as well. You can't question that. And that's all I ask for as a fan. As long as those players out on the pitch and the management team, the coaching staff give their all and give 100%, that's all you can ask for. And I believe that they did. I believe they're short of quality to be able to compete even with a Brentford at this level, at this moment in time. They're being thrown to the wolves. And when you've got fans like that, quite frankly, we don't want him within our football club. I want this club to grow. I want us to be more well supported. I want a new stadium. I want us to be more respected in the football world. But I don't want fans like that following us, to be honest. Fair weather supporters that haven't got the club's best interests at heart, clearly, and all they want to do is sound off in a negative manner. And the expectation is unrealistic. And quite frankly, it's pathetic and embarrassing and disgraceful, are 3 words that I would use. Anyway, that's my rant over on that. Regarding O'Neill, my stance, yes, was we went with him because was he the only option? Again, you'd have to ask Richard Hughes and Neil Blake and the board about that, because was it lazy? Is it ineptitude? But the fact is we went with the guy, and these same fans that are calling for his head were getting behind him after he beat Everton at home twice, 4-1 and 3-0. They were saying he's the best thing since sliced bread, some of them. So you can't just turn on a bloke. He can only work with what he's got. And what he's got is not very much at the moment. We're just not able to be competitive. Scott Parker was right, and he went the wrong way about it. But some of what he said was correct. You don't air it in the way he did, and you don't go the way about it that he did. He had no affinity connection to this club at all, including the fan base. Gary O'Neill has at least tried to make that effort. You've got to get behind him. What is the point? What good does it do at this moment in time of booing the team or coming out with this negative shining? Get behind him. Let's stick together, because that's when we're at our best. We're in adversity. I think of the Winter Gardens. I think of the great escapes that we've gone through, going into administration. All these things, bottom of the Football League, -17, all the rest of it. That's what we're built on. And we are at our best with our backs against the wall. And that we need the fans, the whole stadium, to really get behind this football team on Saturday. And I include the manager in that. Just get behind the team and the management, and let's stick together as one, as a football club and as a fan base, please.
And I love the passion. And I think that everyone's got their own opinion. And I think that we're slightly of different opinion, but we're all in the same boat, I think. I think we're all going for the same thing. We all want the club to do well. I would say that I clapped Gary O'Neill off against Everton to thank him for the job he had done as interim, preparing for a new head coach. But I would agree that the quality is lacking. I think that's lacking on the pitch. I think it's lacking in the technical area, potentially even lacking even higher than that. And we do need a lot of help. But what we do have is we have to go into this game, like you've said, we have to. All we can do is get behind the team. We need a manager that's going to send out a team that's going to fight, run, attack, defend, and do a variety of things that's going to give us a chance to win this football match. Just sitting back, hoping that Forest don't score, and we might score from a set piece, which is highly unlikely because we can't cross a ball. That is not good enough. We need a manager that's got to be brave, and this is his biggest game coming so far. And I said weeks ago, the longer he doesn't pick anything up, Matt, and the longer he doesn't win a football match, the pressure builds up, and that might make him even more nervous to express himself. Let's just have a look at the potential lineup then, Matt, that's going to go out an hour before kickoff, and this is what I predicted, so I won't put you on this, Matt, but I'll find the lineup here. So this is what I've gone for to potentially be a predicted lineup for Saturday. I've gone for Neto in goal, Adam Smith to return after suspension, Mepham, Senesi and Kelly. I think the back four will stay. Lerma, we know that Pearson will come in for Lewis Cook potentially. Billing, I want Dembele in here 100%. Anthony and Kiefer Moore. I suppose there is some question marks, Matt, in whether Rothwell might be instead of Pearson. Zamora might come in this team. That's my predicted lineup. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with everything. The only question mark, the only points that I would raise, Kirk, in that is left back Lloyd Kelly. His confidence is on the floor at times, and he's just come back from injury. He's trying to find his feet. Do we take him out the firing line and put Jay-Z back in? Because he's a more natural left back and it offers better balance on the flanks, and he can link up with his mate Jadon Anthony, which we know he does so well. We're at home, by the way, so we're going to need him to do that. Do we go with Zamora on Saturday and take Lloyd Kelly out of the firing line and just this is where Gary O'Neill's man management has to come into play as well. He has to earn his corn. I'm not saying that he's blameless in any of this. Of course, he's inexperienced, but man management is all part of this job, and he's got to have that in his locker. So he needs to take Lloyd to one side, really, put his arm around him or whatever he needs to do and say, look, I'll put you back in, but you're clearly not ready. You're struggling a little bit. Just take this game out. Jay-Z comes in, links up with Jadon maybe for this one. The other only question mark, you've already highlighted it, Kirk, probably in midfield. I'll say it again, we are at home. Is that a little bit negative to go with Lerma and Pearson? Do we, Joe Rothwell last season for Blackburn, he was an attacking midfielder. I've not seen any of it. We haven't seen much of him, but whenever I've seen him, O'Neill seems to deploy him much deeper, much too deep. He was effective last season, linking up with Brereton Diaz, and he was an attacking midfielder. So do we go with that? Do we go with Billing, Rothwell and Lerma perhaps? Maybe we're at home. Maybe we start with that. And maybe if we need to shore it up later on, we've got Ben Pearson. So that would be the only 2 points that I would raise, Kirk. Otherwise, I'm probably bang on with you, to be honest.
Yeah, Paul Horry, what's he put here? Under Howe, we was hardest working team in the Premier League. We used to get consistently high numbers in distance. Run. Tell you what, Matt. This is a fiery match preview, and we need a fiery team on Saturday. And Abby made a good point there before we come up to the moment where we're going to get those score predictions very, very soon. And I think this is where it's probably not helping me, Matt, where I'm not really feeling Gary O'Neill right from the start. Not as a person. It's nothing personal, because I know some people have made comments about it being a personal attack. Nothing personal against Gary O'Neill. It's more to do with the football and whether I think he's capable of doing the job, which I don't. But if that's the case, Matt, and I'm going to get behind the team. I travel the breadth of the country, spending thousands of pounds on tickets and season tickets. I'm getting behind the team. I want to see something. I want to see something, Matt, in Gary O'Neill's post-match interviews. I want to see some fire in there. I want to see something that shows me that he's got a plan or he's got a way of turning this around. And I just don't see it, Matt. He doesn't convince me after the game that he's going to turn it around in the next game. And I think that's what Abby's saying in the chat.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, yeah, I can't defend him on that. When he first took on the role, he was obviously very, very chirpy. He came in and his first thing to do was to back the players, wasn't it? Scott Parker had made a mess of it, and he came in and thought, right, do you know what? I'm going to make these players feel like feel $1 million. I'm going to get behind them. I'm going to tell them how good they are. I'm going to tell them they are good enough. They can compete, and I'm going to make us solid. And I'm going to make sure that we can compete. And he did that, and he got on a bit of a roll, a bit of a momentum. Since he's taken the job, I must be honest, he has turned into a bit of a dullard, particularly in his post and pre and post match interviews. There's almost a monotone Scott Parker about him, and I'm thinking, Gary, what? But at the end of the day, he's a human being. Obviously, his confidence is probably on the floor because he's thinking, I'm making a mess of this. How do I turn this round? But he's being paid to do the job. He's been appointed to do the job. So man up and front up and go and do it. He has to be inventive. He has to be motivational. He has to show man management. He has to pick these players up off the floor. That's his responsibility. So I agree with Abby with what you're saying, Kirk, with what you're saying. Yes, he has become a bit dull and not very inspiring, to be honest. You listen to him after games and before games and think, God, we don't want to play for you. I'm not, maybe 10 games ago I might have done when you were making me feel $1 million saying that how great I am, but now you seem to be, all monotone and downbeat, and that's a natural. That is human nature, isn't it, with the situation? But good leaders and good managers respond, and they overcome that, and that's what we expect from Gary O'Neill this weekend. It has to be. We have to.
Has to be, and we need to get some score predictions in the chat. It's been a fiery match preview. Let's have 10 seconds just to breathe, because you're going to think about what the score will be between Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Yes, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, and let's just put the banner at the bottom. Time for you to place your score predictions in the interactive chat. Matt, there are other games going on in the Premier League, not just us. There's a game going on this evening about 8 o'clock, Manchester City taking on Tottenham, but match day 21 kicks off with Liverpool against Chelsea at 12:30 on Saturday, Leicester against Brighton, Southampton against Aston Villa, West Ham with potentially Danny Ings, not sure, versus Everton, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace take on Newcastle, Manchester City versus Wolves, Leeds United against Brentford, Arsenal, Man United, Fulham, Tottenham. So before you think about Bournemouth, any other thoughts on any other Premier League games this weekend?
No, not really, Kirk, to be honest. I'm not really interested in any of the others. I'm only interested in the one that we've got. I mean, I'll probably watch Arsenal, Man United's big game, and the top of the league would have been even bigger if United could have held on last night and won at Palace. Newcastle, because of the Eddie Howe factor, I take an interest in. Of course, I do. An envious glance. Do you know what I mean? At what they're doing and what we're missing out on these days.
Yeah.
Fulham, Tottenham. Yeah, there's a few fixtures that stand out there, but ultimately it's all about us, isn't it?
More training photos on the club website as well. We sometimes show them during match preview, but the players are preparing ahead of this weekend. The comments are coming through, Matt, so you need to start thinking about what your score prediction is a moment. I know Steve's just mentioned that I have travelled up and down the country, maybe only 4 away games, but I went to Newcastle, so that counts for 6, surely. Right, I'm going to start with a score prediction. Do we all jump on the positive train like we always do? Why not? Why not? Let's jump on the positive train. We've all got our thoughts and our heart out tonight. Matt, what do I think? What I do think is that the last thing we need right now is to concede inside 15 minutes, because we were talking about an atmosphere that needs to be pumping, a team that's a fan base and a stands that are behind the team, whatever Gary O'Neill picks. But we definitely don't need to concede the first goal. I think that will really be a big uphill battle for us, considering we haven't found the back of the net for a very long time. I am going for 1-1. I don't see us winning the game. I can't sit here and say that I think we'll win. I am going for 1-1, and it's about time that we found the back of the net. Gene, thank you for joining us. I think you're joining us from the USA, so appreciate that. He's gone for a Cherries 2. Forest 1. Morgan's in here. Goals galore. 3-2, just like back in September. What's Abby putting in? Monotone, Scott Parker is accurate. Mark Singleton is going for a 3-2 as well. We're all having repeat of September. Paul Horry in with the 2-1. Yo, being honest, that's fair enough. Going for a 3-0 to Nottingham Forest. Sammy's joining us late. Get your score prediction in the chat, Sammy. Although I probably know what it might be, or maybe not nowadays. And Chine Gate 1 is going for a 1-1. Let's stop there in the chat. I've gone for 1-1, Matt. What are you going for?
I'm gonna keep being positive, because at some point it's gonna be accurate. You know, I just feel that football is a funny game, as Greavesy used to say, didn't he, on the old St. Greavesy show. And sometimes in the face of adversity, in the face of negativity, something, and such is the case in life as well. You know, something comes around the corner and you think, wow, we needed that. Where did that come from? That was so needed that. And I just think it could be on Saturday. I agree with what you're saying, Kirk. I think if we concede the first goal, then we're up against it, and we're really struggling, because the stadium, we know how quiet it goes at the best of times. So as for coming out gung ho, yeah, we have to manage that. Of course we do. We have to make sure that we stay solid and we don't concede. But I'd like to think that we take the game to them as well. I honestly think that Kiefer Moore can cause their centre half some problems. I really do, if we use him properly. Yes, he's got his limitations. You know, nobody said that more than me over the last year, 18 months. But I think that if we can get him up against their centre half, whoever wants to mark him, he can cause some problems and bring our wide players into play. And if we play a Dembele who's unpredictable, you know, if this new signing is able to come and start, just something that's unpredictable that Forest won't be expecting, something like that to spark us. That's what we need. And we need to you know, something needs to happen, whether, like you say, it's a set piece or a goal off someone's backside, you know, just to lift the whole place. And I think we can do that. So I'm going to go positive. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory. I think we have got a good record against them, particularly at home. They're not unbeatable. You know, they've got some quality in their squad. They're starting to click. But let's be honest, they're going to be struggling this season, whether they survive or not. So these are the games we've got to target as winnable. And somehow we've got to pull it out of the bag. So 2-1 to Bournemouth. I'm going to go Kiefer Moore. And I'm going to go Dembele as well to start.
Nice.
And to net.
Put some scorers in there as well. We do have a good record against them. Unbeaten in 5 and won 4 of them. But Nottingham Forest are off the back of back-to-back wins. But let's go back into the chat for Gamer316, who's gone for Forest 2, Bournemouth 0. Chris Hubble says, get behind the team and let's put on another 3-2 performance. Gary Wood, unfortunately, says 0-2 to Forest. Mark says 2-1. And Beth says 3-2 goals. We need goals. Aaron Kaye says Heart 2-1. Head 2-0 to Nottingham Forest. Wayne goes for a 2-1 to Forest. I think I've got that right the round way. Got it the right way, should I say. Donald's going for a 4-0 Bournemouth. John is going for 1-1. Abby's also joined the Head and Heart. Head of 2-1. Heart 3-1. Sammy is in with a 2-1. Just going with positive vibes. Fantastic preview. Appreciate that. 2-1, hopefully, to Bournemouth. Realistically, from Will, I don't see us getting anything. 2-0 to Forest. It pains me, and it does. It really does hurt. Lots of score predictions. Thanks to everyone who's joined us this evening. 1-0 to the Cherries. Dembele will shake it up. 3-3. Cracker for the neutral. Don't know about us fans in the stadium. 3-0 to Forest. Somebody comes back in, might be positive, but that positive Kirk. 3-1 back soon. We need to come back soon. But some difficult games after this one. And I think we are there. Gary Wood coming in. We are not setting up to play to Kiefer's strengths. Let's get some crosses in. Tell you what, let's get someone close to Kiefer more. That might help. Let's put Siriki Dembele on the pitch. It's been a great preview though, Matt. And I just want to put a few more messages out there then as we close this match preview out. Please do subscribe to the channel. Massive support. We've gone past 1,350. Love it. Drives us on. Also, thank you to our monthly members. I'll be able to show a little video on the screen in a moment, but thanks for supporting the channel and anyone who donates and anyone who just hits the like button. And of course, if you weren't able to catch this video live, just pop in the comments, put your score prediction in there. I do want to see it. If you want to chuck a score in there as well. And yes, Matt, we've done it. There's a bit of heart in there. There's a bit of passion. We've got a few things off our chest. That's what we need Saturday. We need some heart. We need some aggression. We need to be harder to beat. We're too soft of late, and we just need to go in. And as far as this preview's been, we need it to be fiery inside Dean Court on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's all we can ask. You know, at the end of the day, we follow our football team. We've all got that in common, as we always say. But you know, let's just get behind them Saturday. And as long as they give everything and leave nothing out on that football pitch, with where we are at the moment, I'll walk away a happy man on Saturday night, because I can't ask anything more than that at this moment in time.
And if Matt walks away a happy man, I'm a happy man. I'm sure all of you are a happy man. And as tough as this preview has been, and as tough as Saturday will be, we are glad to have you with us. It's been a great evening. Have a good couple of days ahead of us, maybe a signing or two. Will we get one registered before Saturday? It might help. Look after yourselves. Thank you for watching me and Matt. Until the next one, we will see you soon. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.